All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. If I could have your attention, please. Hello. I'd like to call the Tuesday, September the 8th, 2015, first public budget hearing special call meeting to order. It's approximately 6:44 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Burt. Here. Councilman Maldonado. Here. Councilman Williams.
Here.
Councilwoman Waldman.
Here.
Councilwoman Faircloth. Here. Vice Mayor Shelley.
Here.
Mayor Porter.
Here. Additions, deletions, deferrals?
What? This is
the budget.
okay.
Budget and millage.
Oh, budget minutes. Okay. I can do that public comment.
Okay. Mr. Manager, anything? Any additions, deletions?
No.
Mr. Attorney, you're going to read item 1 and item 2 together, and we'll vote on them separately?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and members of the council, and for the public's sake as well. This hearing deals with your discussion related to the tentative millage and the proposed budget. I'll read an opening statement that we have to read pursuant to law, and then I'll introduce the resolution and the ordinance so that you all can have a presentation from your staff, segue into any discussion and the public hearing collectively, because the two are related. But at the conclusion of the public hearing, Mr. Mayor, you'll need to call for a vote on the resolution for the tentative millage, followed by the ordinance for the budget.
Okay.
The order of business this evening is the City of Homestead proposed operating millage rate, which is 5.9215 mils, which is the same as the previous year's millage rate, and the proposed vote that millage rate is 0.5934 mils. The rollback rate millage rate is 5.4456 mils. The proposed operating millage rate is 5.9215 mils. This is 8.74 above the rollback rate of 5.4456 mils. Tab 1 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, establishing a proposed operating millage rate of ad valorem taxation and establishing a proposed millage rate for the debt service and the general obligation bonds for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2015 and ending September 30th, 2016. And tab 2, the second item, is a proposed ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, adopting the budget for each of the several funds and departments of the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2015 and ending September 30th, 2016, providing for repealer, severability, and an effective date.
Any questions from council on tab 1? Okay, tab 1, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak in support of or opposition to the proposed millage rate, you're welcome to at this time.
Mayor, would you like the staff presentation first, or?
Oh. Yeah, I guess we should do that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got ahead of it.
Carlos, you're on.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of staff, and members of the public. What we're going to go through is basically a highlight and overview of this year's budget. This has been the budget philosophy pretty much for the last few years. No millage rate increase, no reduction in city services, no increase in city fees, and no layoffs. As we've spoken to you all before, this is getting more difficult and more difficult to be able to accomplish. By Florida law, the maximum allowable rate in the state of Florida is 10 mils. The rollback rate is 5.4456 mils. Our current millage rate is 5.9215, and our proposal for this year is to keep the rate the same. And it's been kept the same for this will be the third year that we've remained at the same rate. This is kind of a history of the property values. The good news is in the last 3 years, you can see increases, and especially this last year, we had a 9.72% increase overall in property values. However, if you look at it from 2008, we still have a long way to go to make it up to where we were once before. We're still $1.8 billion under what our valuations were of 48%. This is looking at our revenues, pretty much mirrors what's happening with the property values, but this is also compounded by the years where we were going back to the rollback rate. That basically also ate up into some of the revenues that we would have been receiving. So again, over the last 7 years, we're still $5.7 million under, or 34% under. Doing more with less. In 2007, which was the year that the general fund had the largest budget, compared to the current budget that we're proposing, it's actually 3% less. Yet, during that period of time, the CPI index went up about 16%, and the population also increased about 16%. Basically, this is showing where our revenues are coming from. Our ad valorem taxes make up almost a quarter of the revenues that we're receiving. The interfund transfers is the number that we try to focus on and hopefully try to reduce over the next few years. That includes about $5 million of budget stabilization revenues from other funds. The good news is that between 2014 to 2015, we had increased that gap by about 1.1 million. Between 2015 and 2016, we actually reduced it by 100,000, and that's our promise to continue to eat away at that gap. This is an idea of the general fund expenditures, where it goes pretty much by department. As you can see, the public safety is almost more than half of the general fund's budget. To compare that with the property values that we get and the taxes that we get in, we only get about $10 million in taxes. The police, the public safety budget alone is about $22 million. This is a comparison of last year's adopted budget by the general fund department compared to the 2016 proposed budget. And on the next slide, I'll show you what the highlights are. I'm sorry, but I can't see that. You basically have the 5 new police officers that during 2015 the council approved to add on. Obviously, that is a change when you compare it against last year's adopted budget. You have the 3% cost of living adjustment of $482,000. You have the 1 police officer and 1 code enforcement officer that were transferred from the CRA. That's $245,000. Seminole Theater Operations, this is new. This will be a new division under the parks, and it's going to be $278,600. New City Hall debt service. If you recall, the construction contract to build New City Hall was $25.6 million. We had about $15 million in the New City Hall fund. Therefore, the $10 million line of credit that we borrowed from, this would be to start repaying it back. The New City Hall property insurance, this is new, $187,000. Business tax receipt inspections, which is something that's required, will be about $146,000. However, that is a revenue generator, and we expect to actually make about $11,000 on that. Then the next 3 items were all transfers from the CRA. Main Street Management Services, $35,000. Old Town Management Services, $25,000. Funding for Main Street events, $15,000. And then the final one was, last year we had a $1.2 million transfer from the general fund into the New City Hall fund to cover some project management costs. Obviously, that was just a one-time item. As far as CIP projects, the ones affecting the general fund, we basically only had 2 items from the police department for a police vehicle and a PAL van. And because we will lease that, as we often do with most of the equipment, we will spread out the debt service over 5 years. So the impact of this year's budget is only about $11,000. The next 2 slides pretty much show the citywide CIP projects. You had received in your package back in August the detail of all the CIP projects, including the ones that were out there for future years. These are the ones that are being funded this year. Total is $12.7 million. And basically what this slide shows is by function and what the source of funding is for. Most of these are not from the general fund. As you saw on the slide before, there were only 2 items from the general fund. Most of these are from either the utilities, or it's from grants, or it's from impact fees. It's just a slide that shows your enterprise funds budget, and the obvious thing that sticks out there is that the electrical utility makes up almost 63% of that budget. And then these are all the funds budget. The budget for this year for the entire city is $187,500,000. And as you can see, the enterprise funds make more than half of that. The general fund makes almost a quarter of that budget. This is a comparison by fund of last year's adopted budget to this year's proposed budget. And I'll just highlight a few of the more significant changes. In the electrical utilities, most of the increase there's one CIP project for almost $700,000 for the purchase of some land for a new substation, and there's also $1 million transfer into the utility renewal and replacement improvement fund for future capital needs. In the water and sewer utility, the biggest project there is the public pump station 1 project, which is almost $3 million. So that's a significant increase for water and sewer. In the people's transportation, the reason for the increase is we recently got audited, and one of the comments that the county had is that we were rolling over too much funds, we weren't spending enough. So basically this year's budget has an aggressive plan for street-wide improvements. It also calls for about $700,000 in new shelters. It also includes about an $80,000 match for 2 new trolleys. Confiscated properties, the interesting thing there is the reason for the decline is the money hasn't been coming in as it normally has, so therefore with confiscated property, you can only budget what you have. You cannot budget what you assume you're going to get in seized funds, so that can't happen. So therefore, we could only appropriate what we currently had. What that means is that during 2016, they should get $1 million or $2 million in seizure funds. We may be coming to the council mid-year and asking for you to appropriate those funds so that they can spend them on projects. And then Speedway Fund, the only interesting there is that this is the first year where the lease revenue, which was about $2.6 million coming in, is now starting at $1 million. So now we're going into that deficit mode where we're actually eating into fund balance. This next slide was after we had basically balanced the budget. We did get a request from a council person that there were 2 special events that they preferred that these be unfunded, and that would be the Bike Festival and the Community Holiday Party. So basically what that does is it currently frees up $30,000 that can be used either different ways, since again the budget is balanced. It could be either put in contingency, it can be put into miscellaneous or special events, or it can be used to fund some of the unfunded projects on the next slide. These were requests made by council that had not been funded. So again, the first 3 items alone are, I believe, like $26,000, and the last one, as you can see, is about $262,000 for the addition of 3 additional council staff. Again, these have not been included in the budget. To include any of these, the first $26,000 can be absorbed by the $30,000 we just freed up. The last item would have to come from fund balance. And then this was a request by a council person to actually unfund this. This was done early enough where those monies were used elsewhere for the unfunding of the chili cook-off for $15,000. As far as staffing needs, basically from 2015 to 2016, the only increase really occurred during this fiscal year, which was the addition of the 5 new police officers and the 1 construction manager. And the 1 construction manager basically was in place of a contract that we had come to council for project management services. It was felt during the course of that contract that we were basically better off, more efficient, and probably some money saving by actually going with an in-house person. What are we asking of council tonight? Basically to adopt the operating millage of 5.9215 mils and the debt millage rate of 0.5934. Now, with the debt millage rate, the interesting thing there is the trim notice that everybody received had the debt millage at 1.01, which is the same rate as last year. Last year's rate actually generated some additional monies that we kept as a debt service reserve. So basically, that's being applied over the next 2 years, and we're able to keep that rate at 5.934 for at least the next 2 years. And we anticipate that the third year out, with property values going up, it should maintain at around the 0.60 level. But again, with debt millage rate, when you adopted that bond referendum, basically whatever it takes in the debt millage rate to generate the revenues needed to pay off the debt is what needs to be done. And then the last thing is basically adopting the budget for 2015-16.
Okay. Questions from council?
Hold on. Hold on. I'm sorry. Not yet. Sorry. The next, basically this is just showing where the budget is available, and also that the next budget, the final budget hearing is September 24th at 5:01. And our famous "Where do your tax dollars go?" And basically what it shows that out of every tax dollar that the taxpayers get, the city only gets 29 cents of every dollar.
And Carlos, can I introduce the video? Can I do that?
Absolutely, because he doesn't trust,
This
he doesn't trust the
is the
scientists to
best
do
part
it.
of the show, okay? This is our way of reminding everybody that budgets are not just about numbers on a page. They're about the people that we serve, and they're about the people that serve the people that pay the bills. And it's always a great opportunity to reflect on the important mission that we have in government. And what you'll see on the screen is just a taste of that. And I would also like to, at this time, recognize the tremendous efforts of the staff in really doing as much as they can, more with less, and for their spirit in serving the people. And then also to you all, we've had a phenomenal year this year. I think some of the things you're going to see on the screen are, I guess all of it is a result of good policy. And we're proud to show this to you, and thank you in advance. Ready? Wow.
Very, very nicely done, Mr. Manager. Can we ask questions of the council now?
Please.
Anyone from council?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
I did not see Martin Luther King in the budget. Is it in the
Because,
CRA budget?
no,
Yeah,
that's,
If you're
No,
referring to
yes.
Martin Luther King Day, yes, that is funded in our budget under special events.
And what were you about to say, Carlos?
the musical is still in there. If you were referring to that, that's still in there. That's being deemed as a recurring one, so unless we're asked to unfund it, that will remain in the budget.
Wait. What now? The what now? The who? The musical.
There's two funding sources, right? One is the CRA for the event in the morning,
Yes, we fund every year a Martin Luther King Day event, $15,000.
and then the recurring on the general fund side is the musical, which is how much?
20,000. We also have the MLK breakfast, also in the general fund at $5,000.
Okay, my concern is, I didn't know that was reoccurring, the musical. It would be, if I'm in order, I have solicited to them a series of questions about the production of it, and they have not gotten back with me. So at this time, I requested that be taken out until hopefully by the second budget hearing. And I think I'll have Selena to print all of the information I requested for them to get back to council for us. But that should, no, not this year, unless they get back to what I think will be appropriate questions about the operation.
If it's the will of the council, we'll remove that item.
Let me get Ms. Faircloth with Mr. Williams, when Mr. Williams...
Yes, I'm sorry. No, I'm good. I can come back.
Ms. Faircloth?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilman Williams. I think we had a great 2-year run with the musical, a great production, but I have some questions about the operational aspects of it. I think in moving forward, we should kind of rethink and retool as far as it relates to the celebration that we're going to do for MLK. So I would like to move forward and beyond the MLK musical. 2 years have been great, but I think it's time to turn the page.
Is that a motion then? Would that be a motion to, Mr. Williams, will you second that?
Yes, if Councilwoman Fairclough, is that just to take it out or?
Yes, I'm requesting it to be unfunded.
Right, and can I, the questions that I had prior to the funding was that they get back and they have not done that. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I'm agreeing with you to defund it, but I still want, hopefully they can provide information, then I may have a different of opinion come next budget meeting. But I second that to defund it at this moment, yeah.
Councilman, would you prefer that we then just keep it in there as special, not
No.
identified, not earmarked for that, but just in case during the year something should come up, then you have it appropriated?
I'll listen to my other colleagues on that one, but I would prefer not to do that, because there could be monies appropriated to another area of cultural affairs. And here's my reason is that because we're really propelling people to come to the Seminole Theater, and I think that with that musical, they should work within the framework of the Seminole Theater to perhaps do something in partnership with them to bring more cultural awareness instead of funding it, and it's not really appropriate at FICO Williams. But if it's going to be something different, that they need to be included somehow into the Seminole Theater as an operational piece, as one of the many musicals that they can bring. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Look,
Yeah,
so,
I think what we need is just, if the direction is to remove that line, then we'll just reduce it by that amount, and then that'll be that. So
Yes.
if that's what, Yeah, I think that's, Carlos, I think that's what you're asking, unless, I mean, I don't think you need a formal vote per se. If you're all comfortable with that, then that's what we'll do.
Is anyone opposed to that item being removed?
No.
Okay. Did you want to say something? Ms. Wallman?
I just have a question, and I see exactly where you're coming from with your comments, but wouldn't it be better to keep that 20,000 in case you wanted to do something at Seminole Theater, so that you'd have that money set aside? It didn't have to be that project, but I'm just saying a project.
So I
Once
guess
it's gone, then,
contingency fund then, I guess?
well, just this year, because it have to be voted on again next year as well. I
Right.
mean, but I'm just saying
Yes, ma'am.
that you might want to consider keeping that money allotted for some sort of entertainment so that you don't take it out completely. That would just be my suggestion.
Yeah, you could either keep it as miscellaneous, again, not earmarked specifically for the musical, but keep it within the special events account.
Right,
The 20,000 should something come up, or unless you want to use it to fund something else.
I'm amenable to that. That's fine, yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, duly noted, and thank you, because I'm amenable to that. So
Okay.
don't delete the purpose of the earmark, but keep it in a contingency or something of that framework of thought for purposes,
To be determined.
within the Southwest, I guess.
Okay, Mayor, it's council's opinion that you don't need to formally vote on any of these matters. If it's consensus direction, we'll start pulling things out, or adding things. So on this item, is it the will of the council to move this item into contingency? Or, Carlos, what fund did you say you want?
I'm saying we could just keep it within the special events account, it's just not earmarked for musical. That's another option.
Okay.
No opposition to that? Anyone opposed? Okay. Good. Ms. Wallman, would you have anything else? Any other questions from council? Now, we need to go back to the slide of the unfundeds, and we need to talk about that.
Did I miss something?
To the house.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry.
That one. This one. Yeah, this is the one. So, Carl, let's go through it again, because you said that the chili cook-off savings has already been folded in.
That's correct. That's correct.
The 30,000 from the two is available.
Yes, sir.
And then back to that other slide. If, again, the council that gets to we could do 1, 2, and 3.
That's correct.
But item 4 is out. We have to have a discussion on item 4, or we have to have a discussion on all of them.
That is correct.
Ms. Fairclough?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to talk about and give some clarification for the unfunding of the chili cook-off. When that was originally brought forward, it was an effort for community, school, and parental engagement. It was phenomenal for the first 2 years, but I think we have to continue to take it to the next level. So I will be meeting with the principals at a principal roundtable to come up with another event next fiscal year that revolves around academics as opposed to purely and principally just school and community engagement. So it wasn't just an arbitrary unfunding of the chili cook-off. We just want to refine the event to ensure that it is aligned to academics. So next fiscal year, we'll have another project.
Okay. Anyone else? We need to tackle these.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Williams?
Okay. So what do you want us to go by? Because 1, 2, 3 of those ones I requested. So which one do we want to? Are you going? I don't know anything about the tourism, so I have no idea.
Well,
but I yield to the order in which you go by.
Let me get Mr. Burgess and then Mr. Maldonado.
My buttons broken. Help.
Mr. Burgess, then Mr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to explain the tourism's request. Tourism has teamed with TIVA out of Florida City this past year and put together $10,000. And we were able to roll that $10,000 into $40,000 by venturing with the Greater Miami Visitor Bureau and Convention. I know I didn't say that correctly. GMCVB. So what we're looking for, and with that money, at, I believe it was 7 events, we had a representative from TIVA / the city of Homestead that went to represent Homestead and the South Dade area. They went to Germany, they were in England, they were in Toronto, they were in New York, Boston, I believe it was, and I can't remember the other two. So what we're looking for is to gain that match money again, to be able to go out and promote the tourism. And at these events, we have specific stuff that is right with the Greater Miami table or booth, whatever it may be at the particular event. But next to them is a Homestead section that is set up with giveaway things with Homestead. We've got the yellow bags, tote bags, so the people who are walking around can put their stuff in it, and they'll always, it looks like one of those Publix, returnable bags with the Homestead logo on it. So that's what we're looking for, is to be able to possibly even generate more money and to reach out to more events around the world as the Greater Miami people do, is to try to do that. So that's why we're looking for, and also to put, maybe be able to take some of the money that the committee has and hire a part-time person to help, because as these people are traveling, they're getting many contacts and emails and questions from people, and we don't really have a full-time staff person to keep up with it, so it's kind of difficult to and try to build a profile of the people they're meeting and stuff. So that's what the increase of the $5,000 is for, as for the tourism committee. And as we all know, that we are, through the vice mayor's efforts, ecotourism and the bus downtown, or the trolley, excuse me, have become a great success. And these are the type of people that we're reaching out to in Germany, England, Toronto, people that the Greater Miami Bureau targets and knows where the people are through their studies and stuff. So that's what we're looking for the extra funding for. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is in just my position on those 3 top line items that I'm okay with getting those funded with the monies that were leftovers, or through the unfunding to support these 3 items. The tourism it's extremely important. I support that. Traveling this last year a lot, just shows the importance that Miami and Miami-Dade County and Homestead, it's a huge tourism draw. So I have the support. I want to support that. And the 2 other items as well, being that we are traveling frequently, and for the city, on behalf of the city, for the city's benefit. So just for the record, I'm okay with that. And discussion on the last item.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, it's Councilman Burgess. When you say to hire, you mean hire someone like part-time for tourism? Is this a component of the city?
Well,
or is
perhaps we could take, not necessarily hire, but we could take some of those funds and allocate them towards somebody who's a part-time person at the city and maybe needs a little more time to do some data entry for the committee, that type of thing. Not a full-time position, or somebody, maybe there's a part-time person that's only working 30 hours a week, and we can get a couple, maybe 5 hours here.
Right.
When a person comes back from an event,
right,
take that 2 or 3 hours or whatever it would take to enter all the names, contact information, and all the information that the person that's traveled to the event for the committee has been able to establish contacts and stuff.
And you think that's going to be enough?
Well, it's not enough, but you don't want to be greedy. I mean, I understand the times that we have.
Right.
We do have,
Well, I see it as an investment, is what I'm
right.
saying.
And I think tourism, we do need to spend more money on it, and we need to come up with probably somebody, if not full-time, then a part-time person that's able to commit to that, because as we grow and we're looking at bringing the iconic attraction
Right.
and things like that, we're going to need to go out and reach out to bigger and better things through the tourism committee. And the 7 people I have right now are dedicated, and they work their butts off for us. And they meet every month on the first Tuesday of the month, and they go. They've been, like I said, they've been around different parts of the world, Europe, Canada, all throughout different places in the U.S. They've got 8, I believe it is, or 7 or 8 events that are targeted specifically by the Greater Miami Convention and Visitor Bureau that they help with. And it's made, we've made big strides into that Greater Miami Convention and Visitor Bureau also. They've come down to 3 or 4 meetings for us. And Rolando, their assistant director, has done great things in helping us be guided in the right direction. So at some point, maybe not this budget this year because we are so lean,
Right.
but I think next year we seriously do need to look at something that will have at least that one dedicated person probably sitting in there, and maybe through the PIO's office or somehow, they merge together and start to, because we're going to need it at some point.
Right.
At the League of Cities, I talked to different communities that do have it, that are, not every community needs it because they're
Right.
not somewhere, but the ones that do have it say that it pays off, tenfold for the work and the stuff that they get out of the return that they get on the investment of an employee works out tremendously for them.
Okay. No, I'm all for it. I think that's what needs to be done in order to facilitate that. My only concern was that enough, especially when you mention having somebody there to So I'm very supportive of that.
Anything else?
Yes. The second line item on there, Mayor, we've noticed that because most of us have laptops or data cards, if we can't access, if there's no public Wi-Fi, and what I've noticed is some of the bills that comes in, a lot of it has to do with data, and we perhaps go over on our data plans. And it can be enormous to the budget that was $2,400. So I think to really look at that again, to make sure that we're not out of budget, and it has not had an increase as far as that. And as everybody know, most of these telephone companies are now, they're going to so many gigabytes a month, and sometimes you're using it and not knowing that you may be going over. And then it ends up impacting your budget to where they have to transfer certain monies from another in order to cover it, and it has just been an outrageous amount. So I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that, but I know I have experienced that. Yeah. So if any one of my other colleagues want to speak on that one, I'll listen. But that's why I asked the manager to increase that, because of our data plan. And, most of us have Microsoft Surface and laptops, and it's very hard, especially if you can't get Wi-Fi connection while we're doing our work. Then it's just really difficult. So, but the price does go up when you go over your data plan. So I thought I need to raise that concern with the council.
Anything else, sir?
Yeah. Do we need to vote on which one by one? Or?
Let me get the comments from Ms. Wallman and the Vice Mayor. Did you, Ms. Wallman?
Turn my microphone on. I have no problem with the increase of the Tourism Committee by $5,000. I think it's been long needed because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I just have to express my opinion, and that is that I really don't think that it's right. It's my opinion, just that I don't think it's right that we have people going on committees on these trips unless that money can be catapulted. You said the 5,000 was catapulted to 40,000. So if those funds that were catapulted is what's sending the people on the trips, then I have no problem with that at all. But, yeah, okay, I have no problem with that at all. I just don't think that it's right to have taxpayers' dollars that are going into a committee be spent on people making decisions and talking about things here in the city that maybe they're not quite as knowledgeable about as a staff member or a council person. So with that being said, good.
Vice
And
Mayor.
then I'll reserve my comments for the others. Go.
Thank you. Yeah, just on the first item, I have no issue with the 5,000 because I'm very familiar with how TIVA and the Greater Miami Visitors Convention Bureau are kind of using that to create a bigger pool of money, which then helps South Dade as a whole and ultimately helps our tourism get driven farther down south to Homestead and to our parks, and kind of what we're working toward capitalizing on the tourism side of our economic engine. I do have some concerns about employees and hiring of staff members and assistants and that type of stuff as far as for the committee itself. I think there's some dangerous precedents there as far as allowing committees to then hire staff or have staff, because we all have some sort of a committee that all could benefit from having somebody there to help as an assistant. So I think I have a little concern about that, but the actual 5,000 allocation for being placed into the pool for doubling, tripling, quadrupling the monies and helping with the tourism committee, I don't have a problem with it this time, but I would like to have additional, if the discussion about staffing comes up for committees, then I would like to weigh in on it then, but for tonight I'm okay with just the 5,000. And then as far as the other two items, you know, I'm not really favorable in increasing the council budget at this time. I mean, I'll defer to the majority of the council. I'm not going to fight on that one. So if the majority thinks we need the additional monies for operational to be effective as council people, I'll support that, but I'm not really personally in favor of it. And I'll reserve on if we ever get discussion of the actual council staff.
We'll get there. Mr. Burgess?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just a point of clarification. Anything that does go out with the people that travel to these is okayed through our PIO's office, and then she okays any brochures or literature or anything that they take, all goes through her office for an okay before anything is taken to any of the events.
Okay, so is anyone at this particular time opposed to taking 1, 2, and 3 and using the savings from the $30,000 and funding 1, 2, and 3? Is anyone opposed to that? Okay, so Mr. Manager, 1, 2, and 3 are okay using the savings from the 30. Now we got to talk about the 3 additional staff members that could possibly be up to 262,000. Did you want to speak on that, or did I leave you?
No, I think it was my... Oh.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah. I brought... every year I bring this forward. And my idea behind this is that, and I don't see it in what we do to be effective as council persons. You know, right now, of course, we're sharing, and it's helping. But my mindset is a little bit different than a staff, council staff. I look at it as a legislative aid. And what I mean by that is that for instance, I'll just use now, is that, you know, I like to do a lot of research on different kind of ordinances and the history of it, and, you know, resolutions, helping prepare that. And it's more of a supporting person to help with legislative items of our policies or our, or I say myself, way of making sure that everything is achieved in its objective. And so if we, you know, we already have 4, if we have the other 3, that gives a council person its own legislative aid to help with research, to help with beyond just booking travel and booking meetings. It's way beyond that. For me, it's, you know, I got a series of town hall meetings. When we come to meetings like this, we may say something, and then by the time we leave, we forget what we said, and then there's no follow through or follow up on it. But if we had a person dedicated to be here at the meetings, to, you know, as any other staff or manager has, So after the meeting, we're able to go back, dialogue, and, bring forth different things that need to be cleaned up in the ordinance or resolutions that we may bring forth as sponsors. And so it's a legislative aid to the council person. In other words, if I can't make a meeting, then I'm able to send my aide to sit in on a meeting that perhaps a county commissioner is having within the district or what have you, to bring back the appropriate information. As of right now, we can't do that. We have no way of doing that. And so if we can't make the meeting, a community meeting or what have you, we wouldn't know what was going on. And so that's my frame of reference in mind in having to advocate for a council person to have a legislative aid in order to ensure their effectiveness as a policy maker. And so, with that, I'll have it open for discussion from my other colleagues to weigh in. I will also say this, is that at the time when it came before us, we were saying we needed more police, and which took precedence over that. We've hired, I think 8 police within this cycle. Then it was said that, we needed some other things. We ended up giving raises to all of our employees that much deserving. So I think a lot of times, we as a council person, we sit back to make sure that the staff is a priority and taken care of. But in order for us to really discharge our duties and responsibilities, and we're part-time, we're not full-time, we're part-time. And so having a legislative aid will help us to go through our agenda, if we have questions, more research, that kind of thing. And so that's exactly why I brought this item up for this budget year, as I do every year. So I'll wait to hear from my colleagues for their suggestions or comments.
Anyone else would like to comment? You're up, Mr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. I also supported this same item last time. I gave it my full support. It's already difficult enough that, unfortunately, we don't do this full-time. I wish I could do it full-time. I don't get paid to do that full-time. We have our careers and our professions that we dedicate a bulk of our time, and we make extra time to fulfill our duties, but it's still not enough. Every time someone asks me my position as a council member, I'd say it's considered a part-time, but it's like another full-time job for me, and I wish I could dedicate more time, because that's what I enjoy doing. I love serving my community and bringing solutions for this community. Moving forward, I'd like to work on more policy items. I'm a solutions provider. When I do IT, my clients come to me, they have a problem, they want a solution. And that's what I do constantly. I wish I could do that a lot more with the city in regards to some policy items, whether it be with, I know as a liaison to development services, which I know that there's an item coming forward that's working on there. I wish I could actually just put more time into that, or any other committees that I have. Also, we have a lot of invites from either committees that we sit on outside of the city of Homestead. For instance, I sit on not only the Florida League of Cities, Growth Management and Economic Development, but also sit on NEAP, which is the county's Image Advisory Board. I sit on the Beacon Council Board, and I get involved in Chamber of Commerce Board for the city of Miami. So I travel a lot, and a lot of times, or sometimes, I can't make those meetings. It'd be great if I could send a policy person over to sit in those meetings, take the notes, find out what's going on, and be a channel that's constantly there. I've seen over the last couple of years as serving this community that we've always been left behind in Miami-Dade County because we're never being represented. Now, I have to tell you, it's very difficult for myself and maybe for this council to get up to Homestead. And throughout the years, I could understand now why we've always, we've not had the representation up there in Miami-Dade County, because they put it at odd hours. It's difficult for us to get out there, and again, it takes away from our first responsibility, which are our careers. I support this item. And it's only for the fact that I'd want to do more for the city. And in order to do more, my belief and my opinion is that another council person that I would have to work with directly would make me more effective as a leader in this community. That's it for me.
Anybody else? We got 2 in favor of. Where's the rest of, where's everybody else? Ms. Fairclough.
Yes,
Sorry.
I just had a question for Councilman Williams. When you mentioned legislative aids in lieu of assistance, what type of projects or undertakings do you foresee these potential additions to staff? What do you see them working on? Are there any wholesale projects that you feel should be worked on but can't be worked on because we don't have the support or staffing levels?
Sure. For instance, I will take, for instance, even when it even comes down to our council agenda, if there's, more information that I may need to be more effective in my decision making, and what I see them doing also as being more of a, and we say staff or support network, but to be able to help with legislative items such as code items that I think that needs to be changed. I just don't have the capacity or the enough time in a day to be able to do that. I see them being more broad as a community advocate, from our office. For instance, I have Selena working on different things I like to bring forth to council to do the research on, to do, see what other municipalities are doing. Giving me a report of what is expected, or giving me a report about, really just updating us, or updating me myself on current things that I may not know of. But if I have a designated person that says, listen, I need more information on how we can make this better, where I may not have the time to do that, and what they do now basically is, they're restricted in such a way that they can't go out to a community meeting on behalf of me if I can't make it. And so I see them in a more broader sense of just being a staff person just right there, but being a arm for us, touching persons or groups or whoever, advocacy work on behalf of us that we may give them direction to do.
That's it.
Can I also answer that question? I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor, and then.
It's piggybacking on.
Go ahead.
Jimmy.
Go ahead.
Vice Mayor, you okay with that? Yeah. So just another item. For instance, I've attended NALEO the past couple of years, and NALEO always is giving us tools, and I know that you've been to those meetings as well, Councilwoman. They are a great resource for elected officials in which they take best practices that are happening in all communities, not just because it's Latino, it's just all communities in general, because this has to do with health and education. They provide us the policy, the how-tos, how to implement it, and those are great items that, we could bring here to Homestead and then, get them implemented, but it takes our effort for the most part to push this all the way through, to become policy items, to work with the manager and staff and all that. And so what tends to happen is that if we don't have a person dedicated to that, we drop that ball. I've dropped that ball a few times with some great projects. And again, it's a benefit to the city, and I'm seeing that get lost in translation. So, and I know that's something you're aware of because you've been to NALEO. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm opposed to it, not because I don't think that we would be more effective with an additional council staff member. I mean, I know that I've got numerous projects going at any given time, plus, getting ready for meetings and all the other things that we're all involved in as council. But at the same time, we still are, 20 officers down. I think we still are in great need of additional police officers. I think you're going to have a hard time justifying it to the public why we need staff members. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem this council has, not so much justifying it to each other, because we all know what our workloads are, and we all know that we could all benefit, and we probably all would be more effective with staff members, but the cost for that is quite large, and I think you're going to have a hard time selling that. And I don't think now is the time to be adding additional staff, so I wouldn't support it at this time.
Mr. Burgess?
Thank you, Mayor. I too see the need as the city is growing. I mean, we're up to 66,000 people and growing every day. But at this particular time, where we are in the budget and the way that we are struggling to make our budget every year, I'm just not comfortable in putting this amount of money out there at this particular time. I think there is a need. I like the idea. Jimmy, keep bringing it back. One year I'll vote yes when we're a little more flush as a city. But I just don't think at this particular time we are ready to sustain another $260,000 for that particular item. So at this time I can't support it. If you're looking for direction, Mayor.
Ms. Waldman?
I've had a really tough time with this, but I'm going to tell you that, Mr. Shelley, I'm so grateful that we've been able to be partners with our assistant, because when I know that he's working on a project, I do most of my own work. He does the same thing, and we've had to learn to live with that, and I think it's worked out very well. I mean, I'm not saying that that it's not been a burden at times, because I do a lot of my own correspondence, I do a lot of everything, and phone calls, follow-ups. But I agree that with Mr. Burgess that right now when you hear the manager and if you listen closely and you hear what he's saying, we do not have extra funds to do what we need to do. So I think you should keep bringing it up. I think it will be something that will be passed, but I can't endorse it this year.
Ms. Fairclough, anything? Okay. I'm not going to be able to support it this year. I agree that it's a burden for the council, but it's just the numbers right now. So if you need direction, I guess that would be 4. I don't know where Ms. Fairclough stands, but
The consensus is fine, majority consensus, so at this point, it doesn't appear that it's sufficient to add this to the budget. My understanding of the direction is the first 3 items, yes, the 4th item, no. Then, Carlos, I just want to make sure, given the other changes, are we still even at the number, or are we up or down?
You've got $4,000 that remains unfunded.
James is just going to need to know whether we're going to amend the budget by a certain amount.
We don't need to amend the budget, because these are really line items. You're not changing the total bottom line of the, so there's no amendment. It's just for us, we will change this in the detail where the monies are earmarked.
Right, assuming nothing else changes, but those were the slides. And obviously, if you have questions on any other item.
Those were the action items those were the items that were basically not funded, correct, Mr. Manager?
That is correct.
Yes. So everything else, pending someone pulling something else out. Mr. Williams?
Yes. What are the different positions we're hiring for this year?
No.
That's originally not in the budget that you're trying to include?
There's nothing into 2016. The only ones that we showed in the slide earlier were the existing police officers and the one construction manager, which were actually hired during the year.
So we hired them in the middle of the year, the construction?
The construction manager and the 5 new police officers, yes, sir.
Right. Okay. The other question then that I have is that when we went to 4 persons, we designated that the mayor has their own purpose for their own assistant. We did that because we felt that as the mayor, that the mayor needed that. Is that still a need? Is it still a need that the mayor needs his own, or can we work it off with 3?
As far as the assistant goes, the assistant that helps me is available to anyone.
No.
He's in the office the whole time, so.
No, no. What I'm saying is that no, they're not available. We can't. They're not. They're strictly for the mayor office per se. And so when we did this, we did it little by little, and we tried temps and all of that, and so how did we fare with the public on that? How did we justify? And isn't that personal to Mayor Porter? But how did we justify that portion that the mayor needed at the time needed their own to the public? Did we ever justify that? No. Okay. All right.
I don't know when that happened.
So I'll bring it back again next year from here. But I will say, whatever is good for the goose is good for the gander. So we're all equal, and I think all of us do just the same amount of work or different projects, and trying to facilitate that. I think we move and we find things of importance that we need, and then on other cases we say that there's a drought. But there are a lot of things within the budget that I may see that I don't even see a need for, but it's funded for its purpose, and it's a reoccurring funding, but that doesn't mean that we need to have it reoccurring every year. So if we're looking at staff levels and all of that, I think all of that needs to be taken into consideration going forward. And if we're going to examine whether or not it's right or wrong, or whenever the appropriate time is, we may never know. But I do know this one thing, is that the work keeps getting tougher, and the work is continue to get more, and we'll become more demanding as such. And so, I just want to put that on the record. And so, do I think it's fair if somebody's working on your project, I'll just say for Elvis, we share the same person, that my project has to be on hold if Elvis is having something. Not saying that happens a lot, but just saying that it can be an inconvenience, especially when you're trying to multitask for meetings like this, get copies and everything else that you're trying to do. It's just not realistically feasible anymore, and so that becomes we become ineffective in that part. But all due respect, the person that signed it is not all for us. So unless we change that policy or go back to just having one, and then we'll really see how that looks. Having one person take care of all 7 of us like they used to. All right. So thank you. I'll leave it there.
Ms. Wallman?
Yeah, I just want to comment and say that anytime I've ever asked Jordan, the mayor's assistant, to help in any event that I've done or any project that I'm doing, he always says, just let me check that calendar, and he's right on board. So I've never had a problem with that. I think in the last few years, things have changed. When our previous mayor was here, the girls, they kind of all band together and they would work together, and if one of us had a project, the state of the city, all the assistants worked on that, and I think we're missing that. I'm not even sure who's in charge of our assistants. I know we're not, and so that's a very important issue to be raised. But I know that that anytime I've asked your assistant mayor, and I hope I might get him in trouble, but anytime I've asked him to help, he's always been willing. I think Mr. Shelley would concur that we always tell our assistant if he sees something that needs to be done, to reach out and lend a hand. But I don't know if that's reciprocal. So maybe whoever the manager is not this manager, but whoever the manager is of our department, you know, there's definitely some skills that need to be worked on. But I've never had a problem with asking the mayor's assistant to help. Even our previous mayor and the assistant, the mayor didn't particularly like it when that person would help, but she was always willing to lend a hand if she could. So there's just my comment.
Mayor.
Mr. Williams?
I'll yield to Elvis.
Just maybe a question for the manager for our department of our aides, to have a questionnaire maybe or some evaluation along with HR and see where they stand. It'd be good to hear from our assistants, you know, through them, you know, where we're not pointing out who said what, but the fact that how they feel and what their workload is. And, you know, if we recall, since I've been here, we've gone through quite a few assistants. It's a high turnover, and I guess it's because, you know, we overwork them. We've lost great assistants. They've gone elsewhere within the city of Homestead, and those departments are benefiting from the vast experience that we've shoved them into. But maybe Vivian through HR and maybe with the manager of that department, you guys, you know, have a discussion, maybe come back to the manager somehow and try to get their point of view and how effective they feel like they're being to our benefit and so that it's not just us up here saying we need them. It'd be good to hear what staff would say in regards to that. That's something that this council would support. Something that we could look into, just some feedback from HR and the manager's office in regards to this. Mr. Manager?
I mean, I hate to disappoint here, but I really would prefer that staff not be involved with this policy decision. This is pure policy. You guys every year have this discussion. It's hard enough holding who we have to now get them involved in this as well. This is pure policy, and if I asked every staff member that works here, would it be great to have more staff? Everybody would say yes. The police department, the parks department, everybody would say the same thing. And we've never tried to begrudge anybody. If you want more staff, that's a decision you all make. And if you add it to the budget, we'll hire them really quick. But in terms of getting the staff involved at this point, you know, I really would appreciate just kind of being left out of this dispute, because it is really a difference of opinion. I mean, we don't take a position one way or the other. We would like more staff across the board, as we've discussed before. I mean, I'm never going to say no as long as you give us the money. We need more staff across the board.
Okay. Mr. Williams?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, George, for that. In wrapping up this, you know, our office have had a very high turnover rate. I mean, I think the average assistant maybe a year and a half at that, but as soon as they can get out of there, they go back to their old departments, or am I right? They take pay cuts just to get away from this pressure we have up here with persons. Because we require a lot of them, and then they've got to juggle their time, and then we end up burning them out because they are divided up, and that's not good, period. They will take a pay cut just to get out the mayor and council's office. I'm telling you from experience. Yeah, we burn them to the ground, one person for two people, and we got all these demands. It's not fair. And so, and I guarantee you, next year you'll probably have a different assistant, because we done burned them out then. So, you know, every year I bring it back, but I think we need to take into real consideration their time, their effort. You know, they're working on some weekends. You know, it's a lot for them to take care of two people. And for us to not be concerned about their well-being is, I think, is not due diligence on our end to take care of the staff that we do have, and great staff at that. But as long as we keep doing what we're doing, every year, I'll probably be training somebody on what I like to have done, and that's not fair. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to us, and they're being burnt out, and taking care of two people is very difficult. So thank you all, and we'll move forward.
Ms. Fairclough?
Yes, I just shifted gears a little bit. I have a clarification question with the unfunding of the projects. And with the chili cook-off, that money is not being repurposed because it was not used to balance the budget, correct?
No, it's no longer available. That money was used already.
Right,
The only
so,
thing,
let me finish.
I'm sorry.
Clarification. So my point is, that money has not been repurposed. It's not going anywhere else because it was not used to balance the budget. I put that request in advance. But what I do want is clarification on the projects that have been unfunded, because you mentioned $30,000.
Correct.
Okay. Can you just list those? The MLK musical, I know we just unfunded.
It was the bike festival and the holiday community party. Those were the two.
Plus the MLK. And of course, the chili cook-off was unfunded already, so that's not accounted. But that's it, Carlos, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And that but for $4,000, that puts us pretty much even.
What's the question, Mr.
Well, I just wanted to clarify for Councilwoman Fairclough's question, because she asked Carlos whether or not the monies for the chili cook-off had been reapportioned, but you said earlier that they had already been respent, right?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is those monies are no longer available.
Right, so I want to make sure that Councilwoman Fairclough's aware that you're okay, that they weren't repositioned, they're not available, future, okay.
Okay.
Nobody wants to talk about the video at all? I mean, come on.
Yeah, how much did that cost? How much staff time with it? How much did that cost? Oh.
Okay, this is a public hearing on both items. You're welcome to come forward if you want to speak in regards to the millage rate and/or tab 2, which is the budget itself. I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion on tab 1 to establish a millage? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess? Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Is there a motion on tab 2? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess? Yes. Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Second? All in favor? Give us about 5 minutes.
Mr. Manager, I love the video. It's always heartwarming, touching. Good job. Keep it going.
We got another whole meeting. Don't everybody leave.
Post it on Facebook, put it on